Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving deep today
Yeah, we're diving.
into Elder Gerrit W. Gong's talk, Trust Again,
Yeah.
from October 2021 General Conference.
Right.
We're going to be exploring how to rebuild trust. And that can be trust in ourselves, in others, or even in God.
Oh,
Get ready for some really fascinating perspectives and maybe even a little introspection along the way.
what really struck me when I first read this talk
Yeah.
was how Elder Gong kicks things off with something so personal, right? He starts with a childhood story where he felt so unloved that he wanted to just run away from home.
Oh, yeah.
And, I think we've all been there, haven't we?
At some point, for sure.
Yeah, like just feeling that disconnect, that urge to escape when trust feels broken.
Yeah. And it's such a relatable starting point, and it really highlights how crucial trust is.
Absolutely.
Like, it really is the foundation of any relationship, family, community, even society as a whole.
Yeah.
Like, without it, things just feel kind of shaky,
Yeah, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
But the thing is, Elder Gong doesn't just, describe the problem. He
Mhm.
goes on and he outlines specific scenarios where that trust can get damaged.
He does get pretty specific, doesn't he?
He does.
I mean, he talks about betrayal by people we depend on, like friends, business partners, spouses. Then there's all those unexpected curveballs that life throws our way,
Oh, for sure.
like death, illness, even those times when we're really wrestling with questions about faith or maybe even church history.
Right.
It can feel like the rug's been pulled out from under you.
Yeah, it's interesting how he connects those experiences back to that feeling of running away from home.
Right.
Not literally, of course,
Right.
but that sense of just wanting to escape when things get tough.
It's that feeling of not belonging.
Right.
Right? Like you're out of sync with your community.
Mhm.
Maybe you're putting in a ton of effort and you're not seeing any results, or you're even struggling to connect with God.
Yeah, so how do we navigate those really tough feelings? How do we even begin to trust again after these kinds of experiences?
Well, this is where I think the talk takes a truly inspiring turn.
Okay.
Elder Gong reminds us that even when our trust in other people falters, God never stops trusting in us.
Oh, wow.
He's a God of truth, and that truth, that never changes, even when our circumstances do.
That's such a powerful anchor to hold on to, right?
It is.
Knowing that God's trust in us is unwavering.
It is. It is.
And it reminds me of that story that Elder Gong shares about the couple that was called to serve in the nursery.
Oh, that story gets me every time.
I know.
So we have this husband, right? Initially, he's hesitant, not really sure about working with little kids,
Yeah.
but slowly, little by little, he starts to connect with them.
Yeah.
And eventually, that act of service, it brings the couple closer together, and it completely changes their whole perspective on having children.
And it really highlights that saying yes to God, even when we're unsure, can lead to such unexpected blessings.
Absolutely. And it emphasizes that trust is something that you build through action, through experience.
Yeah, like that other story about the family who opened up their home during that big ice storm.
Oh, yeah.
They get the call to serve, and then bam,
Uh-huh.
opportunity to put their trust in action.
Yeah, and in doing so, they don't just help other people, they actually deepen their own trust in God and in each other.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah, it's almost like this paradox.
Okay.
We think of trust as this fragile thing,
Yeah.
but often it's through these acts of courage and vulnerability that we make it stronger.
Totally.
Like it's a muscle.
The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Exactly.
And sometimes working that muscle means trusting God's guidance during those really challenging times.
Mhm.
Or maybe taking a step outside your comfort zone and trusting someone who's hurt you in the past.
That brings to mind that story about the brother who's struggling with pornography.
Oh, yeah?
And the stake president feels inspired to just open the door.
Such a powerful image.
Yeah.
What a simple act of trust.
And that act,
Yeah.
it created this space for healing and for repentance.
Such a powerful reminder that sometimes the most important thing we can do is create that safe space for others to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
But, that brings up this whole idea of discernment.
Okay.
Elder Gong acknowledges that rebuilding trust after betrayal, that takes time and wisdom.
Absolutely.
And he reminds us that even if we're questioning who to trust among people, we can always, always trust God.
Always.
And to that point, President Nelson has said that you do not have to wonder whom you can safely trust. God's love for us is infinite. His knowledge of us is complete.
So powerful.
That makes his covenants and promises totally reliable.
It's like having that bedrock foundation
Yeah.
when everything else feels shaky.
Yeah, and I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this whole idea of in process of time?
Oh, it's not a quick fix, is it?
No.
Our faith helps us to trust in God's timing and our obedience. That keeps us moving forward.
Okay.
And then with time, we find resolution, even peace, in the middle of our trials.
And Elder Gong even brings in some comforting scriptures.
Oh, beautiful scripture.
He quotes, weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning.
Yeah.
Cast your burdens upon the Lord and trust his constant care.
Yes.
And then one that always really resonates with me. Earth has no sorrow that heaven cannot heal.
So powerful.
It's a beautiful reminder that we're not alone in this.
Absolutely not.
God is always there, ready to support us. But true healing usually involves a change within us too.
That's right.
And that brings us to Christ's atonement.
Yes.
It allows us to shed those selfish tendencies.
Yeah.
Become more trusting, more forgiving, more like him.
More like the Savior.
Yeah, and it all comes back to repentance and forgiveness.
Always does.
It's not about forgetting the past. It's about choosing to move forward with hope and trusting in God's grace and mercy.
Yeah, it's not about dwelling on the past. It's about looking to the future.
No matter what we've done or what's been done to us, there's always hope for healing and reconciliation.
And this leads to another one of Elder Gong's key points.
Okay.
This distinction between condemnation and forgiveness.
Now, forgiveness, that can be so tough, especially when we've been really deeply hurt.
Absolutely.
So help me understand this distinction.
Okay, so both condemnation and forgiveness, they start by acknowledging that there's been a wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference is condemnation keeps us stuck in the past, right? Dwelling on blame and resentment.
Oh.
While forgiveness looks to the future. It's
Right.
about letting go of those negative emotions and moving forward.
So it's not about saying that what happened was okay.
Right.
It's about choosing to release the pain.
Yes.
That's holding us captive.
Exactly. And remember, it's a process, right?
Yeah.
It takes time, it takes effort, it takes a lot of prayer.
Yeah.
But the freedom and the peace that comes with it,
Yeah.
totally worth it.
Like breaking free from those chains.
Yeah.
That are binding us to the past.
Mm-hmm.
And as we forgive others, we open ourselves to receive God's forgiveness too.
It's a good reminder that we all mess up.
We do.
We all fall short.
For sure.
We all need God's grace to move forward.
Yeah. But we also have to acknowledge our agency and our accountability, right?
Yes, we do.
Like we have this incredible power to choose.
We do.
But we are responsible for those choices.
Absolutely.
And for the consequences they come with.
Absolutely.
That could be a tricky balance,
It is. It is.
Having that power to choose, but also knowing our choices have real impact.
But Elder Gong reminds us that God's justice and mercy, they're perfect.
Yeah.
We can trust that he'll judge us fairly.
Yeah.
He'll take everything into account.
Yeah.
And, to illustrate this,
Okay.
he uses that powerful parable, the story of the prodigal son.
That parable is just so rich with meaning.
Isn't it?
What insights does Elder Gong draw from it?
Well, he encourages us to see ourselves in both sons.
Okay, break that down for me.
Okay, so first you have the son who runs away, right?
Right.
He squanders his inheritance,
Yeah.
hits rock bottom, and then finally crawls back begging for forgiveness.
Okay.
And that son, that represents those times when we stray from God's path, we make mistakes,
Yeah.
and we feel totally lost.
You've all been there.
Yeah, and then you have the other son,
Okay.
the one that stays home, follows the rules, but then he struggles with resentment
Oh, yeah.
when his brother comes back.
Yeah.
He represents those times when we're tempted to be self-righteous or judgmental or we withhold forgiveness.
So how does this whole parable connect back to trust?
Well, it highlights the different ways that we both give and receive trust.
Okay.
The son who comes home,
Yeah.
he learns to trust in his father's mercy.
Mm-hmm.
But the steadfast son, he has to trust that his father's love is big enough for both his sons, flaws and all.
Wow, that's powerful. Trust really is a two-way street, huh?
It is.
We have to be willing to both give it and receive it.
That's right.
And ultimately comes down to trusting in God's infinite love and mercy.
Yes.
For ourselves and for everyone else.
That's it. That's the heart of it.
Beautifully said.
And that leads us to the heart of Elder Gong's message.
Yeah.
His concluding invitation.
Okay, I'm ready.
He invites us to create communities where everyone feels welcome and safe, regardless of their past or their struggles.
Yeah.
It's about extending compassion and understanding.
Like God does for us.
Exactly.
It's about turning our homes, our congregations, even just our individual relationships into those safe havens where people can come as they are.
Come as you are.
And find healing.
And
Right.
that's where we'll pick up in part 2.
I can't wait.
We're going to explore Elder Gong's closing remarks in more detail and really unpack what it means to come home to God and to each other.
All right, looking forward to it. I've been giving a lot of thought to that idea of coming home that Elder Gong talks about.
Hmm.
It's so much deeper than just like a physical return,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. It's about coming back to that feeling of being whole,
Yeah.
of really connecting with God and with other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's about finding that place where we all want to belong,
Yeah.
where we know we're loved and accepted, just as we are, imperfections and all.
Yeah. And Elder Gong challenges us, right?
Yeah.
He challenges us to make our communities, our congregations, even our own homes,
Yeah.
into those kinds of places, those places of belonging.
Right.
Places where we really value authenticity.
Hmm.
We embrace being vulnerable and we let forgiveness flow freely.
Yeah. It takes a real shift in our mindset, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Moving away from exclusion and judgment
Right.
towards really embracing inclusion and compassion.
Yeah. And remembering that we're all on a journey, right?
Absolutely.
Like we're all children of God, each with our own unique path.
And you know what? That diversity, those different experiences and perspectives, those are the things that make our community stronger.
Yeah, it's like a tapestry, right?
Yeah. It is all these different threads woven together.
Yeah.
It creates something really beautiful and complex.
Beautiful.
When we truly celebrate that diversity and make space for each person to feel valued, I think that's when trust blossoms
Yeah.
and relationships deepen.
It's a beautiful vision,
It is.
isn't it?
It is. But how do we actually make that vision a reality?
Right.
I mean, it feels overwhelming sometimes.
It can. But remember how Elder Gong started his talk
Okay.
with that simple but powerful story from his childhood?
Right.
Remember when he felt so unloved
Mm-hmm.
that he just wanted to run away?
Yeah.
And he found comfort in his mother just listening to him?
Yeah.
Maybe that's where we start too,
Okay.
by just really listening to the people around us.
That's a really powerful reminder.
Right.
Just listening
Mm.
with empathy, without judging.
Yeah.
That can be such a powerful act of trust building.
It shows we care. It shows that we value their perspective.
And it shows that we're willing to meet them right where they're at.
Right.
It creates that safe space for vulnerability and connection.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be some grand gesture, right?
It doesn't.
Sometimes it's just being present with someone,
Mm-hmm.
putting down our phones,
Yeah.
making eye contact.
Eye contact is so important.
It is, and just really hearing what they're saying, like really listening.
Yeah, sometimes it's about what we don't say.
Okay.
Resisting that urge to jump in with advice
Oh, I do those.
or our own stories.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Sometimes people just need someone to listen,
yeah, just to be heard.
to feel validated,
Yeah.
to know that they're not alone.
That's such a good point, and it reminds me of another really key aspect that Elder Gong brought up,
What's that?
extending grace.
Oh, extending grace.
Yeah, how does that work
Yeah.
in the context of building trust?
Well, it starts with accepting that everyone makes mistakes.
Right. Yeah,
We all fall short.
for sure.
We're all a work in progress.
Yeah.
Constantly learning and growing.
Yeah, so it's about giving people the benefit of the doubt,
Mm-hmm.
assuming they have good intentions,
Yeah.
and being willing to offer second chances.
And what about offering ourselves a second chance?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we could be our own worst critics,
Absolutely.
holding ourselves to these impossible standards,
Yeah.
and then beating ourselves up when we don't meet them.
But
Yeah.
we're not defined by our mistakes.
We're not.
We are worthy because we are children of God.
Yes.
Not because of how perfectly we perform.
And when we really let that sink in,
Yeah.
when we allow ourselves to be loved and accepted just as we are,
Just as we are.
then we can offer that same love and acceptance to others.
It's a beautiful cycle, isn't it?
It is. It's like,
Upward spiral.
yeah, grace inspires more grace.
Yeah.
Trust leads to more trust.
Absolutely.
As we practice these principles, we create a ripple effect
Yeah.
of positive change. That can literally transform relationships, communities, the world around us.
It's about becoming those instruments of peace.
Yeah.
Those healers, those beacons of hope that Elder Gong talks about.
It's about embodying trust,
Yeah.
forgiveness, and belonging in every aspect of our lives.
And that takes discernment, doesn't it?
It does.
Elder Gong talks about being wise as serpents and harmless as doves.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, knowing when and how to trust again, especially when you've been hurt.
It's a balance, huh?
It is.
Like on the one hand, we need to be cautious,
Yeah.
Trust should be earned, not just blindly given.
Especially after a betrayal.
Yeah, take the time to get to know someone, see what they do, see if their actions match their words.
Yeah, watch how they act.
Yeah, but then there's that whole harmless as doves part.
Yeah, that's where compassion comes in.
Okay.
Approaching people with gentleness and a real desire to understand their perspective,
Mm-hmm.
remembering that everyone has a story.
Right.
And we rarely know the full picture.
So it's about being discerning,
Mm-hmm.
but also open-hearted,
Yes.
protecting ourselves,
Yeah.
but also extending grace.
It's a tough balance.
It is. But with the guidance of the Spirit and with the support of people we trust,
Yeah.
we can learn how to navigate this.
And Elder Gong also really emphasizes the importance of forgiveness.
He does.
He says, I'm quoting here, condemnation and forgiveness both begin by recognizing a wrong.
Right.
Often, condemnation focuses on the past.
Mm-hmm.
Forgiveness looks liberatingly to the future.
So true.
That's so insightful.
Yeah.
Forgiveness isn't about saying that what happened was okay.
No.
It's about choosing to let go of the pain and the anger that keeps us stuck in the past.
Yeah, it's about breaking free from those chains.
Yeah.
And stepping into a future of healing and hope.
It's shifting our focus from what was to what could be.
That's right.
Moving from dwelling on the hurt to embracing the possibility of reconciliation.
And that takes a conscious choice, doesn't it?
It does. A decision to let go of that resentment, even when it's really, really hard.
Oh, yeah.
It's about seeing the person who hurt us through a lens of compassion, remembering that they're human too.
Yeah.
Flawed and imperfect just like us.
And that's where God's grace is so essential.
Oh, it is.
Because honestly, forgiveness can be brutally hard.
It can be.
And it often requires a level of strength and humility that we just don't have on our own.
We don't.
But when we turn to God,
Yeah.
when we ask for his help in releasing that anger and that bitterness, we tap into a power that's beyond ourselves.
We do.
A power that can heal our hearts,
Yes.
mend broken relationships.
And change lives.
It can change lives.
It can.
And that transformation, that's what Elder Gong is ultimately inviting us to experience.
Absolutely.
It begins in our own hearts.
Yeah.
When we choose to trust again, choose to forgive,
Yes.
choose to embrace compassion and belonging.
Yes. Yeah.
And then as we let that radiate outward,
it creates this ripple effect.
it does.
That touches so many lives.
It's about building those communities of trust and love.
Yes.
Those havens of hope and healing.
That Elder Gong describes.
Yes.
It's about becoming those beacons of light,
Yeah.
vessels of God's grace.
Yeah. In a world that really needs it.
It does.
And it brings us back to Elder Gong's concluding invitation.
Okay.
Make our homes, congregations, communities, those welcoming places where everyone feels safe and loved.
Yeah.
No matter what their past is or what their current circumstances are.
No matter what.
Creating that sense of belonging.
Yes.
That deep inner knowing that we are all children of God.
Connected and on a journey back to our eternal home with him.
And that journey,
Yeah.
as Elder Gong reminds us, is built on trust.
Trust.
Trust in God,
Yeah.
trust in ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and trust in each other.
What a beautiful vision.
It is,
Challenging.
but so worth it.
Oh, worth it.
Pursuing with all our hearts.
And so as we wrap up part 2, we're going to explore those practical steps that we can take
Right.
to build that trust, to strengthen those relationships, and really become those beacons of light that Elder Gong is calling us to be.
We've been talking a lot about creating these communities of trust and belonging, like Elder Gong describes.
Yeah.
But honestly, sometimes it can feel a little daunting. Like,
Yeah, it's true.
how do we actually put these ideas into practice? Like, where do we even begin?
I think we can get a little overwhelmed by the big picture, and we miss those small, everyday things that can make such a difference.
Exactly. So how do we bridge that gap? How do we move from feeling inspired to taking action?
Well, think about how Elder Gong starts his talk
Okay.
with that simple but powerful experience from his childhood, feeling unloved, wanting to run away,
Right.
and finding comfort when his mom just listened to him.
Yeah.
Maybe that's our starting point too, you know, just truly listening to the people around us.
That's such a powerful reminder.
It is.
Listening with empathy, without judgment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that can be such a potent act of trust building.
It shows we care. It shows that we value their perspective. We're willing to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
Create that safe space for vulnerability and connection.
And it doesn't have to be this big dramatic thing either, right?
No, not at all.
Sometimes it's just putting down our phones,
Yeah.
making eye contact, being present with someone.
Yeah, eye contact is so important.
It is, and really hearing what they're saying, like actually listening.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's about what we don't say.
Okay.
Resisting that urge to jump in with advice
Oh, guilty.
or share our own stories.
Yes, I've been there.
Right.
Yeah,
Sometimes people just need to be heard,
just to be heard.
to feel validated,
Yeah.
to know that they're not alone.
Such a good point. And it reminds me of something else that Elder Gong talked about.
Okay.
Extending grace.
Oh, extending grace.
Yeah. To others. And
Yeah.
maybe even more importantly, to ourselves.
To ourselves, absolutely.
Yeah. What does that look like, practically speaking?
Well, I think it starts by remembering that we're all human, right?
Yeah.
We all make mistakes.
For sure.
We all fall short.
Mm-hmm.
We're all work in progress.
So it's about giving people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Assuming good intentions.
Yeah.
Offering second chances.
And second chances for ourselves, too.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Right.
Yeah, we're often our own harshest critics.
Oh, absolutely.
We will hold ourselves to these impossible standards.
Yeah. And then we beat ourselves up when we don't meet them.
But we're not defined by our mistakes, are we?
We're not.
Our worth comes from being a child of God,
That's right.
not from how perfectly we perform.
And when we really let that sink in,
Yeah.
when we let ourselves be loved and accepted just as we are,
Yeah, just as we are.
then we can start offering that same love and acceptance to other people.
Yeah, it's like this.
Beautiful ripple effect.
Yeah, grace inspires more grace. Trust leads to more trust. And as we put these principles into practice, I think we create this ripple effect of positive change that can impact, literally everything: relationships, communities, the world around us.
It's about becoming what Elder Gong describes,
Yeah.
those instruments of peace, those
Yeah.
healers,
Yeah.
beacons of hope.
Embodying trust, forgiveness, and belonging in everything we do.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into trust again,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with a question.
All right.
What's one small step you can take this week to rebuild trust, whether it's in yourself, in someone else, or even in your relationship with God?
Maybe it's offering a sincere apology.
Yeah.
Reaching out to someone you've been avoiding,
Mm.
or taking some time to really pray and ask for guidance and strength.
Maybe it's choosing to see someone through a lens of compassion,
Yeah.
setting aside judgment, letting go of past hurts.
Or even forgiving yourself for something you've done.
Oh, yeah.
Embracing a fresh start.
Whatever that step is for you, remember that even the smallest act of trust or kindness can have a ripple effect,
It can.
far beyond what we can imagine.
Absolutely. It can touch lives and change hearts in ways that we might never fully understand.
So go out there and be those beacons of light.
Yes.
Be those agents of healing. Be those bridge builders.
Keep trusting, keep forgiving, keep coming home to God and to each other.
And until next time, keep diving deep.